let's talk a little bit about hay storage, something that's near and dear to my heart and also yours, and something probably that frustrates me more as I drive around the road and look at this. We really try hard to make good hay, and then oftentimes where we fail is at the storage end. And most of that rot, it's not happening in January. It's happening during those summer months prior to winter coming on when there's a lot of biological activity. And so it's imperative that we get it off the ground as quickly as we can and get it under cover. And I think I'm a big fan of hay tarps. They're fairly inexpensive, and if you take care of them, they'll last 5 years if you're careful. But I noticed one thing down here, you've got them setting on pallets. What's your reasoning for that?
Well, most of your hay rot is from wicking moisture out of the ground, and you're right, you need to get it under cover as quick as possible. I mentioned at the start that we take a lot of time and effort in making good hay. We want to make sure we store it properly. So those pallets, get it up off the ground, air is moving underneath of it, and there's ropes that we put under those pallets to tie these tarps down because wind is tremendous. You can see pipe on some of those. It's very rare that we have a tarp that'll blow off. And you're right, with proper care, as soon as we take a tarp off, we fold it up, don't let it get all wet, don't leave it laying on the ground, and we put it in a hayloft so that it use it next year. So once you get back from these end pieces, that hay that's in there looks like the hay that's in that barn. I mean, it'll come out in really good shape if you put it in there in the right moisture condition. If you put a stack of hay like this at 20% moisture, you're going to get mold. And so it needs to be good dry hay before you put it in there. Now the hay that's in the barn on pallets, as you can see, we call that Coke can, stacked 3 high. That's mainly will be sold to our horse clientele. So our premium hay will go into the under roof. The hay that's in the tarp will be fed to cattle, or we do have some horse clientele that want just a native grass hay. That's another thing. We have orchard grass hay under roof. This is mainly native grass hay out here under the tarps. Our third method of storage is a wet wrap.
Yeah, let me ask you one more question.
Sure.
You sort of implied that this may be the better system, but I think it's more because of a marketing ploy in the way you sell this hay. It's just easier to remove this under a barn than to have to
take a tarp off, right? Right.
That's probably one of the biggest issues is as you pull that tarp back, you've got to continue to secure it because it's going to, unless you could feed that really quickly, you're going to get into wind conditions, and that's how a lot of tarps get ripped up.
That's true, yes.
Just flapping on the ends.
And you're probably right. It is a marketing thing. Those bales maintain their shape better, stacked in a Coke can, whereas these pyramided on their side will condense down over time. So they'll be egg-shaped versus a perfect round bale shape if they're on a Coke can or stacked 3 high.
Right. All right, well, let's talk about your wrapping.
All right, this is a wet wrap product. It goes through a fermenting process, of course. We have it on pallets. I don't know that you really need to do that, but we like to stack it high. We don't use a tube inline wrapper because if you notice all the woods around here, we don't have a good long 1,000-yard run. We have small areas, so we go 3 high here, and it saves on space. You will see the electric wire around it. We have had bear come in and climb to the top of it, and when they climb to the top of it, they puncture every bale they touch with their claws. So you have to go through and tape them. We've also had raccoon. That's one wire 6 inches off the ground. We've had raccoons come in and tear them up. So they love that fermented smell, the bears and the raccoons, and that's why we put electric wire around it. There's 323 wet wrap bales in this stack right here, and we try to take care to make sure they don't get tore up. It is beautiful feed when it comes out in the wintertime, and you slit that product open, take that stretch wrap off, it's sweet smelling, and the cattle will run to it. It's very good feed.
Yeah, and I'll just add, one of the reasons to put them on pallets is because rodents are a huge issue, and so if they're sitting on the ground, you'll tend to get mice and voles that will just sort of poke holes all through it. The other thing is, what are these bales? What does a wet bale weigh?
I would roughly say 1,600 pounds.
And what is one of your big drive bells with?
800.
Yeah. So
about double the weight.
So there's about 50% water in there, and that's one of the drawbacks to this, is that you're hauling water and you got that extra weight. And there are a lot of people with tractors that couldn't pick one of those up. And unless you have the proper equipment, you know, you can't spear this unless you're going to finish it or eat it.
Feed
right
it,
away.
yeah, feed it.
So the other thing I always like to say is that this doesn't make better feed; it just preserves the feed you put in there. So I get a lot of people that think they can put poor quality hay in, and when it comes out at the end, there's going to be some great feed. It's only as good as what went in there. You know, and anytime we store feed, it decreases in value to some degree. Well, our job is to minimize that. But I think this is high quality feed. It's just going to be high in water, but this was sorghum Sudan in here, right?
It was, yes.
And so, you know, it's really hard to dry that down, and this is a good way to get that quality on a product that you know, if you waited for all the moisture to get out of the sorghum Sudan stalks, you'd be waiting on the ground too long, and you'd run into issues with too dry on the leaves, too wet on the stalks, and then of course a rainstorm coming in. So makes good quality feed. Just remember there's water in there that you have to transport. And some people are not happy with all the plastic they have to pick up.
Yeah. That is a problem. We make 2 trips a week to the landfill, and I'm actually researching getting a dumpster put on site, because there is some trash, and you know, if you're conservation minded, it's a lot of stretch wrap. That's another thing. The expense of that stretch wrap is not cheap.
Right. What does that add for bale?
About $4.50 to $5 per bale of stretch wrap to keep it in there so that it does ferment you know, correctly. So yes, there is some trash associated with that.
And we have looked at how do we, what can we do with this extra or this leftover wrap? Can we recycle it? And the problem is that no, and of course recycling is down right now with China, but one of the issues that we run into is there tends to be a lot of trash and dirt into these, and the recyclers frown upon that, and so, you know, they're looking for clean as they can get, and oftentimes come wintertime, by the time we get these off, it's hard to keep these things clean enough. But if you could put the dumpster out here and get them in pretty quickly, and they're setting in a good clean area, so that should help out there.
Right. Yeah. The dumpster deal would just save, you know, me fuel and time of going to the landfill twice a week. It'd be nice to have it on site, and like you say, it would stay clean and what have you. But yeah, because besides the stretch wrap, you have the net wrap underneath of it,
Right.
and so there's some trash.